Welcome to Amina's Moment. We're so glad you were able to tune in tonight, and we're going to get right into it. But as always, we want you to know that I'm not here to give advice, but I am here just to give you pieces of information, little nuggets, and different ingredients that you can create your own recipe for success. So again, what works for me will not work for everyone else, and I'm glad about that because that's what makes us unique and different and special in our own way. So let's get started with tonight's topic. So tonight the topic is the man in the mirror who's looking back at you. And I want to say that sometimes as young people or people in general, people find it easier to examine and evaluate other people, but they don't find it very easy to evaluate themselves. And I believe that that's because when we're faced with us and the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, the indifferent, those things that do work for our good, we tend sometimes to shy away from those things that are on the negative side, if you want to use that particular term. And I believe that that's something that you have to work on, and that's something that you have to practice. And so with that, I just want to share something about myself. As always, I have my notes down here. I can be very critical of myself, and I have very high expectations of myself, and it's always been that way. And it could be because my parents had expectations that were high, but I took that on even with myself because I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be great in whatever I did, and I wanted to put my all into it. I didn't want to half do something. And so when I began to evaluate myself, even when I moved out on my own when I was 28 years old, it was a matter of thinking about, okay, who is Aamina outside of her mother's home? Who is Aamina outside of her comfort zone? And I realized all of the things about me, there was just a lot of stuff that I didn't know about myself until I was on my own. And so I encourage you, find out who you are. What are the things that kind of bother you? What are the things that make you tick? What are the things that really motivate you? And once you begin doing that, you're able to identify, okay, this may be wrong or this may be right. What can I do to further better myself? And so we're going to get back to that. I actually have a little activity I want to challenge you to do. But one of the things that I wanted to say was, during the time that I was away and when I moved out from my mom's house, I didn't have the opinion or the advice or even the guidance of those that were around me, in my immediate circle. And so that caused me to do one or two things. I could have just gone on and just did what Aamina wanted to do. Or, like I did, I could have gone on and actually asked God for help because, again, finding out who I was, I knew the baggage that I had. Even when I met my husband, during our very first conversation, I asked him, what is wrong with you? And he gave me this look like, are you serious? And the reason why I asked, because I had gotten to know what was wrong with me. I already know my issues. I do not deny them. I'm not perfect. I joke around with some of my students and say that I am, but I'm not. And I know the things that I have to work on every day. And I pray that I'm getting better. But there's always going to be something. And I know that I'm not going to be perfect until I don't live on this particular earth. So one of the things that I recognized was that when I found out something that I didn't particularly like about myself, I needed to continue to work on it. Yes, this is something that I had to do on a regular basis in identifying that. And so I want you to know I will be a work in progress forever until I'm gone, because there's always going to be some area that I can fix. So after telling you that, one of the things that I have a hard time doing is separating my work from my personal life. And I say that because the skills that I use in my office, sometimes I've noticed in past relationships, I would try to use those same things on the person I was dating or, a relationship with a friend or whatever. It does not work out that way. And so I do have to work on evaluating, when I'm evaluating myself or evaluating a situation or body language or your tone of voice. I mean, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm going to always look at every part about you. It's just something I was trained to do because that's what I have to do as a counselor. And so it's not the best trait to have I would say in my personal life. I would say it's a very good trait to have in my professional life. But again, recognizing what do I need to fix. All right, so as a young person, I want to challenge you to do something. And Michael Jackson said it best. I don't know if you all, depending on what your age is, if you remember the song where he talked about looking in the mirror. He was the man in the mirror, and he said if in fact he wanted to make a change, he had to start with him. If he wanted to make the world a better place, he had to start with him. And so this is what I want you to do, and I want to challenge you. I want you to look at some things in your life, and this will not take you just a moment. It should be a process. Find out some areas in your life that you're like, I want to be better. Do you have a bad attitude? Are you selfish? Do you find that you're very snippy at times? Your patience is very low? Just various areas of your life, and I want you to look at that, and I want you to say, okay, what are the things that I consider to be wrong? And it may not be that it's bad, but it's something that you want to better. After you do that, I challenge you to then evaluate yourself and look at yourself and say, what are those good characteristics that I have? What are the good traits? Am I a patient person? Am I a giving person? Do I understand, when someone comes to me with a concern? Or am I a good listener? List those. Now, one of the things that I did in evaluating myself, I constantly refer back to the Bible. I'm not saying that I'm trying to put my religious beliefs on you, but for me, that was like the standard. I didn't want to look at anybody else. I didn't want to look at anybody else's life. I wanted to be good I wanted to be a good Aamina, and that would be in comparison to the Word of God. And so I'm constantly striving, trying to get to that point and trying to be more and more like Christ. And so with that being said, that was my standard there. That was the thing that I was measuring myself with. So I'm not saying you have to use the Bible, but I want you to look at a source, whether it be a person, a mentor, your role model, someone that you're close with, someone that you know will be honest with you. And you then maybe go to them or go to that source and then compare how you get to that point. So how do you go from that first page that you wrote to the second page? Because it is possible, but we have to know what's within. You have to know the bad before you know the good. And I say that because anybody can point out the good in you. Anybody can point out, or you can say, well, I'm good at this, and this is what, this is what makes me wonderful, or however you portray yourself. And so with that being said, you need to identify the bad so that you can begin working on those things and actually make a difference in your life. And so one of the things I want you to think about, let me see, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yes, after you finish, I want you to look at the fact that you are going to be an individual. You're going to be unique. So when others try to compare you to other people, I suggest you reject it, because I'm not going to be like anybody else. No one else is going to be like me. And that is a good thing, because I don't know why somebody would want to be like me, because I am my own person, and you should be happy in your own skin. And so, as always, I just want you to realize how unique you are, how special you are, and just take a moment to look at you and evaluate you. And I believe that the more you do that in a very positive way, the better you will be. And so I encourage you to stand up for what you believe in and actually work hard, because you're not, all these things that you may be asking for, they're not going to come overnight, but they will come because of hard work. So thank you again for tuning in to Amina's Moment, and I encourage you to tune in next time. Have a great week.